There are many elements that make up a good story: a detailed setting, a reliable character, witty, quick dialogue, and the supporting details that bring it all to life. But it's hard to argue that any of those elements is more important than the action or the plot of a story. It is the stuff that happens to your character, from once upon a time to the end, that makes a tale truly memorable. To accomplish this goal, most stories follow a similar plot structure, a format that helps move the action in a way that readers and listeners can easily follow. When you're little, you learn that every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. While that is certainly still true, this plot diagram takes it a bit further. Most stories begin with an exposition. The word itself gives you a clue about what this means. The root word is expose, and the exposition is indeed the part of the story where you are first exposed to your characters, your setting, and any background information or previous event that has led to the moment at which the action begins. Let's take the example of Little Red Riding Hood. In the exposition of that story, we learn about a beautiful little girl who wears a velvet red cape. She is about to set out to deliver her beloved grandmother some treats, but not before she is warned by her mother to stay on the path and not to stray into the woods. The rising action of a story is the series of events that lead up to the climax or most dramatic part of a story. In our Little Red Riding Hood example, the rising action is as follows. Little Red immediately disobeys her mother and enters the woods. She soon meets the big bad wolf and tells him where she is headed. The wolf then runs ahead to the grandmother's house, swallows poor Grammy whole, dresses in her nightgown, gets into her bed, and awaits Little Red. Shortly after, Little Red arrives, sits down for a chat, and begins to notice that her grandmother doesn't look quite right. The climax of a story is the turning point in the action, when all of the rising action leads to an exciting or explosive moment. In Little Red Riding Hood, this is the moment when the wolf proclaims, "The better to eat you with, my dear." The falling action is the sequence of events that follows the climax and leads to the ultimate resolution of the story. In our Little Red Riding Hood example, the falling action events are the swallowing of our fair heroine, the arrival of the hunter, and his hearing the cries of grandmother and Little Red. The resolution, or ending of the story, is the point at which we learn how the conflict is solved and what ultimately happens to our characters. To finish out our sample tale, the resolution occurs when the hunter kills the wolf and frees Little Red and her grandmother, who then live happily ever after. We could use just about any story to illustrate the basics of plot structure, from another simple fairy tale to a complicated 500-page novel. As you read in this unit, look to identify the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution that pace the story.